everybody, welcome to another episode of Friends Talking Nerdy. This is Tim Jousma in a vehicle live on the way to a music store, and driving right now is the greatest legal mind in the Pacific Northwest. It is Professor Aubrey.
Hello.
Yes, we are on our way to a record store today. Do you want to tell the folks what record store it is so I can pretend that I didn't forget?
Yeah, we are going to Music Millennium on the east side of the Willamette River in beautiful Portland, Oregon.
Yes, and we are on our way to hopefully pick up ourselves an album from a band that I think you're getting a little more interest in than you have in the past.
That's right. I'm really hoping to find the Beatles' Abbey Road album. I would be satisfied with Let It Be. And I am getting really interested in the Beatles because we've been watching the documentary.
Yes, the rather exhaustive documentary that you need many, many breaks from. But having said that, is a technical achievement in so many ways, as well as it's great seeing artists create. And when you see the creation of like some of the best known songs in the 20th century just happen before your eyes, like Get Back being created within 2 minutes, that was insane.
Yeah, and I love the scene where George comes in the morning and says, "Hey, do you want to hear the song I played last night?" And then is delivered like a perfectly finished I'm You Mine.
Yeah, and he even brought the song Something to them. Because Get Back, for folks that may not know at this point, originally the Beatles were supposed to record an album, a live album called Get Back. They wanted to kind of get back to their roots. Technology was starting to get to the point to where bands as big as the Beatles could tour again. So they wanted to become a touring band again, really. So it was a way to kind of experiment. But as shown in the documentary, things didn't go quite as planned, and then there were some other things behind the scenes that they kind of touched upon that was kind of souring the milk of the Beatles formula to begin with. But what I found interesting too, it did seem like that, at that stage of the game, they really kind of just wanted to go their own way. It felt like it.
It did, just like that they wanted freedom to create and be in control of their own music.
Yeah, and it was nice, now as we are at the corner here, we are looking at Music Millennium across the street here with George Harrison painted on the window.
Yeah.
It was interesting to kind of hear some insights because, with stories the way they are in the past, you have a certain idea of how the breakup happened, but then you had George in the documentary say like, hey, it would be cool if like 1 year we did a solo album, and then the next year after that we get back together and it will make this Beatles thing better. It's like you just thought they were all going to break up, but is what it is.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was concentrating on parking and figuring out whether we could park here.
Yes, that is definitely really important. We're just going to leave it here, yeah.
Yeah, right. Let's pull up in the middle of the road.
Yeah. All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to kick you all to a musical interlude. We may record something in the store. We may not. We'll see where our interests go, but hang tight. All right, we are back. We are out of the music store. The reason I was hesitant before, I've actually worked in a music store before, and I know they can be pretty loud. So I didn't want to assume the audio quality was going to be something that you folks at home would necessarily appreciate. But we walked out with an album. But the beauty of a music store, similar to a bookstore or a movie store or something like that, is that sometimes you don't always leave with what you walked in expecting to buy.
That's exactly right, and that's exactly what happened.
Tell the folks at home what happened.
So, as you mentioned, I was hoping to purchase a Beatles album because I have two greatest hits albums of the Beatles that were my parents back in the 70s, but I don't have any further Beatles music. I don't have any of their actual albums.
Yeah, the compilations you have are the red and blue greatest hits albums that again were released in the 70s. As far as greatest hits albums, they're probably some of the best that have been made, because they're pretty comprehensive from start to finish of their career as to what they've done.
Absolutely, I really feel like they were very comprehensive, and I grew up with a good sense of the Beatles and their different phases.
Yeah, it wasn't like there was a greatest hits album that they released in the 2000s simply called One, and what that was just a CD that had all of their number one hits on there, and that's nice and all, but it didn't necessarily show you the range that the band had, because the ones that the music that are the hits are
Don't get into the later stuff so much.
Yeah. I mean, there was some later stuff, but a lot of the best parts of the Beatles' later era were the songs that weren't necessarily the hits.
Popular, the hits, the singles that were played on the radio, because that was a time that we were still depending on the radio, or that we were still using the radio to judge the popularity in the same way that we use downloads now. They actually used to use radio airplay as a metric for whether something was popular or not.
Yep, indeed, and it's good that things have changed somewhat in terms of giving people a little more. I mean, we have unlimited access to essentially almost the entire recorded, history of music, at our fingertips these days. But I don't know. I'm rambling on. You got an album.
I did get an album.
Tell the folks what intrigued you. What the album is called Whiz. It looks like it's a compilation album of like 60s French pop rock music.
Yeah, it's sort of like psychedelia from France. And the reason that I purchased this album was they were playing it in the store, and I was really enjoying it. And I kept saying, "Oh, that's French. I wonder what they're saying." And I just find foreign music sort of like foreign movies or books. It's just interesting to me to have music in another language. I really like it. So I don't have any records like that, so I got that one.
Yeah, the song that was playing definitely was interesting. It had I know this sounds cliche at this point, but it did have the vibe of like an early Tarantino movie.
Mm-hmm, it really did.
Yeah, so like you would probably expect like Uma Thurman to be walking out, and based on the album cover alone, I mean it does have a rather voluptuous woman on the covers. Yeah, kind of.
It's a comic book art cover.
Yeah, and it's called Whiz.
I think maybe Whiz is the company, and they probably make compilations of different sorts. This one is Whiz's 4th volume of French psychedelia.
Gotcha. So, yeah, like I said, it's definitely a good listen. And if I do remember here, hopefully the professor will remind me. If we do find this on Spotify, we'll also put a link to the album on Spotify as well, so you all at home can give it a check.
Yeah, totally.
So, anyway, I think what we'll do is cut to another musical interlude right now so we can get our asses home, and then we can let you know what the next part of the show will be from there. What do you think?
Sounds great.
All right, hang tight. All right, we just got listening. Fuck. We just got done listening to side one of the album Whiz. What did you think?
I loved every second, and you may be asking, if it was so good, Aubrey, why did you only listen to half the record? Do you want to know? Tim didn't like it.
No, I didn't. That's, yeah.
And usually, even when you don't really like something, you'll be like, no, it's not that I didn't like it. It's that, X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, and that's what I'm going to say right now. It's like not something I would spend my money on. However, that doesn't mean it's bad. It definitely has its place, and I think, for me especially as a writer, if I'm like writing a particular scene, this is like the gold mine of music you use for wacky crazy scenes and whatnot to get you in the mood. And similar to like electronic music, like that's not the type of music that I'm just going to put that I am the type of person that's just going to put on the speakers and listen to. However, if you're at a silent disco or something like that, I'm going to be dancing away.
Yeah, I really feel like this album is party music. Like you put it on at a party and people really enjoy it.
Yeah, like basically it was a lot of French Tom Jones impersonation.
Yeah, it really was, wasn't it?
Yeah, just swinging 60s beats. The great thing about an LP, of course, is that the bass really kicked through compared to what you would get with like a streaming service with digital.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the sound was really analog, man.
Yeah, like the good old days. But having said that, again, as always, just because I don't like it doesn't mean I don't encourage you all to check it out, because if the world was made just for my liking, it would be a horrific place.
There would be a lot of violence. People should know. There'd be lots of explosions, fights, gunfights, knife fights, chain fights, every kind of fight there would be. What else would be going on in your world?
Oh man, lots of strippers, of course.
Right. It'd be like wrestling with strippers.
Yeah. Wow.
Did I just blow your mind?
Yeah, no wonder I'm a mess, right? But again, I think a person who is a creative person should have the ability to say it wasn't my cup of tea. But having said that, even with what we create on a very, very low scale, I would be a hypocrite to tell you not to spend money on something that you may potentially like, And so, yeah, that's where we're at.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think albums can play different roles, and this album is definitely a party album, as I mentioned to you before we started recording. It's the kind of album that you put on when people are coming over, and
like to a condo warming party?
Like to a condo warming party. And speaking of condo warming, I just bought a condo today.
Congratulations on that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, so the Friends Talking Nerdy Studios will be switching locations.
We will. We will be relocating about 2 miles away to a little different part of a similar neighborhood in Portland, Oregon. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely a much more active neighborhood, because it's more active, there's a little less on the developing side, I guess, whereas in our current neighborhood it seems like every other house is being sold and then turned into an apartment building.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like that so much around there, does it?
Yeah, that neighborhood, the new neighborhood, does seem a little more settled. It does have a lot of homeless people.
Yes, it does have a lot of homeless people.
Yeah, Portland being Portland. Thanks, Ted Wheeler.
Yeah, thanks, Ted. But it's, Alberta's always been one of those streets that there were homeless people walking up and down asking for money. Like, it's changed, but the character of it seems pretty similar still on Alberta. Like, there aren't tents set up on the side of the road. There's still, like, familiar feeling people bustling around trying to get money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, more than anything, what today has taught me is the power of music stores. Streaming services are great for what they are, but, sometimes nothing beats holding a physical record in your hand.
That's right. I absolutely am a huge fan of albums and vinyl, and I really enjoy touching them, smelling them, looking at them, and playing them, listening to them.
You said touch. Anyway, that's the thing with me when it comes to like LPs and like physical media these days. It's a lot like deciding to get a tattoo for me. it's like one of those things like you don't want to spend your money on the wrong thing, you know.
Well, that's why I think, maybe my approach was to buy something that I found compelling.
Mm-hmm. And you did very well.
I did. I was really happy to find it.
Nice. And yes, and Portland definitely has some great music stores in town. One I've been to frequently, Everyday Music.
Yes.
Yeah. One I've been to a lot. What's the name? Again, nothing beats a well-run music store. Even some of the smaller ones. Some of the smaller ones may not necessarily have all the stuff you may be looking for, but, buy physical media because screw Amazon, screw Apple, like complete conversion of entertainment to just purely streaming is not a good thing.
Why not?
Because if you purchase, quote unquote, a movie via iTunes or Amazon or something like that, you're not owning it, you're leasing it. Mm-hmm. And if at any point in the future, Amazon or Apple or whatever company but no longer has the ability to offer that for sale, they can just take it away from you. Because you're leasing it. You don't own a physical copy. Whereas if you bought a Blu-ray or a DVD or something like that, or an LP and a CD, it's a physical copy in your hand.
No one could take it away from you.
Pretty much. I mean, again, like we mentioned before, there are a lot of options in terms of entertainment, in terms of music, Spotify, Apple Music. There's a ton of stuff to get your music out there, but again, nothing beats, if anything, I mean, you should have like your nerdy 5 of albums at bare minimum, physical copies at hand, because sometimes what if money's low and you can't pay for Spotify for a month? Guess what? You can still listen to your music with a physical copy,
Do you think that your top 5 are pretty consistent over time?
In terms of artist, probably. In terms of the actual albums themselves, it fluctuates like with anybody. But in terms of artists that I would choose, the Rolling Stones are going to be on there, the Who's going to be on there, stuff like that.
Groovy, man.
What about you?
Top 5 would definitely have to include some Bob Dylan. Beyond that, it would be hard.
But, do you think over time your Nerdy 5 it has been consistent with the albums themselves or just the artists?
Not even the artists sometimes. I definitely go through phases and I'll have a favorite and then I'll burn myself out on that person or that song or that album. Mm-hmm. So I have to be careful not to do that.
And it's odd because I have found myself in the past feeling that way about the Beatles, and I was kind of explaining that to you. Yeah. They were the first band I really truly fell in, the second band, Rolling Stones first, but they were one of the first bands that I really truly fell in love with. And, but having said that, when you only have so many albums that are already released, and we're talking a group as popular as the Beatles, everybody's heard them, but having said that, the documentary, from Peter Jackson, Get Back, which is on Disney Plus, I found myself lately listening to the Beatles more because of that, because of understanding understanding the creative process. And also on YouTube here, I did find the Beatles anthology documentary from the mid-90s.
Nice. And have you seen this before?
Yes, they showed it on ABC. It's more of a traditional documentary, so there's interviews and archive footage and all that stuff. But the albums that they released 3 anthology albums. They are pretty interesting, and the first 2 included new music from the Beatles
that had just never been released.
No. What they did, it was actually an idea that they were going to use in the Traveling Wilburys, but didn't go through with. What they wanted to do for the second Traveling Wilburys album is get some unused audio from Elvis Presley, and then make a new song with Elvis as a new member of the Traveling Wilburys.
I see.
Obviously, that idea did not go through, but Jeff Lynne, who produced the new music, who also produced the Traveling Wilburys, brought the idea back up. They contacted Yoko Ono, and she gave them demo tapes that John made of 2 songs, one called Real Love, and what's the first one? I forgot. Free as a Bird. Free as a Bird, and really good songs.
Nice. I would love to hear those sometime.
Yeah, well, after the recording, I think we can play them real quick before the anthology.
Awesome.
All right, so any more thoughts? Anything music related you wanted to relay to the audience?
Well, just I hope you're enjoying music, and, it's the time of the season when everybody starts playing Christmas music and other holiday music, and you can try to find some that you like. Like, I like the Charlie Brown Christmas album is good. The Vince Lombardi trio. It's not Vince Lombardi. Who is it? Guy Lombardo.
Okay.
Not Vince Lombardi. Jazz, from the Peanuts Christmas special, which I really enjoy this time of year.
Oh, from the earliest days of Mr. Hanky, and once the Mr. Hanky's Christmas Classics album came out, like every single year, I would play that, even when my kids were little.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I mean, I even tried to, like, I would bring, like, Luke to the store sometimes, and like, hey, do you want to get a Mr. Hanky doll? And he's like, no, it's poop, no. So, yeah, anyway, I think we'll wrap things up here. We have a rather busy month here on the show, and, we actually also have some interesting stuff planned for the future.
Yes, we do. Absolutely. We've got some great stuff planned.
Yes, I think one thing music-related I'm looking forward to most is our New Year's Day show. Spotify being what it is, I love their Spotify Rewind. They create a custom playlist for you with your top 100 played songs. And what we're going to do on New Year's Day is myself, the professor, and Reverend Tracy will be going through our top 5 songs of 2021.
That's right. It's going to be a great show. Going to be super exciting. Please try to tune in for that one.
Yes, and one more thing. You were on another podcast.
Oh my gosh, I totally was on another podcast today.
Mm-hmm. You want to tell the folks at home about it?
Yeah, it was the Pacific Northwest Haunts and Homicides podcast, and Cassie and Caitlin. Yeah. Thank you, Cassie and Caitlin. Shout out, hey girls. They interviewed me about my paranormal experiences with ghosts. And so I was on their show and shared my experiences with ghosts.
Yes, it was a very entertaining episode, and I even helped contribute a song to it.
That's right. You can be heard singing on the podcast.
Yes, imagine that. So, again, that's our friends at PNW Haunts and Homicides. Not only check out the episode with the professor on there, but check out their other shows as well. They put on a good show.
They do, and they alternate. So one week is about homicide, and the next week is about haunts.
Yeah, and most importantly, too, like if, but again, with indie podcasts being what they are, if you got a podcast that's willing to help you out, you go above and beyond to help them out as well. And so, yeah, they've helped us out. We've helped them out. And I'm going to continue to do that.
Yeah, their podcast is really fun, and they're very nice.
Yep. All right, so with that, I think we'll wrap it up here. That brings us to the end. Every Wednesday and Saturday in this podcast space, we will have something here to entertain your ear holes. Until we meet again, we bid you adieu.
Good night, my loves.
Oui, oui.
Subscribe to Friends Talking Nerdy on iTunes, the Google Play Music Store, as well as Spotify. Remember to support Friends Talking Nerdy on Patreon. Goodbye, darling.